Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity show. Tonight's show is August the 17th and my name's Thomas Williams. Hi all and welcome to another week of the Truth, Honour and Integrity show. My name's Thomas Williams. Glad to have you all with us this evening. We have an interesting show. There's a bit of intel, some of it rather pleasing, and some of it that will literally boggle your brain. So look forward to that. It will either leave you speechless or set forth an enormous load of expletives, put it that way. You're not going to like it. But we have some good news also. So some intel, portions of the intel I can't release for obvious reasons. Things are closer than we think on certain aspects anyway. Right, this is the Truth, Honour and Integrity show. We're going to go into the usual of the emails and all that stuff. So if you want to email the show, it's truth.honour.and.integrity@gmail. So you can send in questions if you're not on the Facebook page, which is the Truth, Honour and Integrity show. The links for the show is www.spreaker.com/user 8955881. And we have an articles website called thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org. We also have the links to the biggest shows that we've done on THI, and also a couple that came off Cosmic Voice, the Shane interview, the Future of Humanity, and also the Faction show. So they've been all compiled neatly into one compartment. Special thanks to Michael for doing that. So people can see how this show has progressed, the narrative has progressed. It's all there. It's been done in kind of a drip-fed disclosure, so people get a chance to understand what's been going on the various levels, be it ETs, be it banking, be it the Illuminati stroke factions, be it the parents, the covens. So it covers the whole gamut. And then of course we went into the deeper stuff with the Levashov, and the even deeper stuff that was quite horrific, the Svarli material, all about the mind control. So that's all on thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org. We have a social media alternative, not Facebook, that doesn't have spying material, AI, and all the other adverts and all the other nonsense that's associated with Facebook, on MeWe.com. Some people have had difficulty finding it. Just send an email to the Truth, Honour and Integrity@gmail.com and we will add you to the group. We have the People's Club donations website link at thepeoplesclub.org if you want to go and donate to that. Some of it's going towards this show, and the rest is being collected for better times. Right, a couple of things before we get into the news. There's some issues going on the Facebook page. Not a surprise. Of course, we've had a lot of fun and games, and there'll be another portion of the fun and games in tonight's show. But there's a number of groups that are not happy that the truth has been outed on our particular show, and we've got the Org Tellers group, the David Wilcock group, the Corey Good group, some rather bitter people left over from Cosmic Voice, plus the usual agency trolls deliberately trying to cause disharmony in the group. I'm asking for all members to be aware of it and don't fall for their nonsense. And the other thing I would like to remind members is that the Facebook page is a freedom-related group. It's not social media. There's plenty of sites, other sites for that. It is a freedom-related group. And I'm asking members to quit with the cat posts. It's programming, whether you like that idea or not. And also with personal diary posts. You know, these posts are more for your own page and not for the group. The group is all about freedom, gaining knowledge, finding out what's going on around the world, and self-empowerment. And I would prefer it not to be used as a social media group. So we need to focus more on the task at hand. I want to say thanks again to the OYM lads for having me on Sunday. It seems the members enjoyed that show, both the THI members and the OYM members. So, but you know, I wish they'd stop asking me to come on every other week. You're not being fair on the OYM lads. You know, it's their shows. I know perhaps people like listening to me, and I understand that, but you know, it is their show, and they should have other guests on, and perhaps we'll be working more together in the future. We'll see. I like those lads. They don't, unlike far too many others in the alternative media, they're grounded and balanced. I wish I could say there was a lot more. There just isn't. And those lads do as well. You know, it's not just about the show. They go out and helping people, and kudos to them. Right, let's get into some news. I'm still kind of struggling with a lot of it because it has a tendency to repeat. And here's the first story that has kind of been plucked today. I suppose most of you by now will have heard of the events that happened or took place in Barcelona today. And to date, it is alleged that 13 people have died. Nice numeric number. And dozens have been hurt. And our sympathies go out to the people who at this point have allegedly died and have been injured, if that turns out to be the case. As with all these recent events, certain things come forward at a later date. We never know these days what's real and what's not, because they've distorted everything. You know, fake news is a purveyor of fake news, telling you about fake news. It's just all designed to throw you off the scent of what's going on. And no doubt we'll get more details on what took place today. But, you know, if people did die and people have been injured, then we have our sympathies. It's awful. Now, the news reported straight off, like the propaganda machine they are, that it was an ISIS attack, and even gave the name of an alleged terrorist, except the said terrorist is not in that country and someone is using his credentials. Oops. Of course, we all know which particular group in this country uses other people's credentials, passports that turn up out of thin air. Well, it's not thin air, it turned up out of fire and brimstone. So, but this is the latest in a series now of a new way to cause terror on the people. And it started back in France in December of 2014, when a vehicle was driven into a Christmas market in Nantes and a car rammed pedestrians in Dijon, leaving more than 20 wounded. France again, July the 14th, 2016 in Nice. Tunisian Mohamed Bouel drove a truck into crowds on the Promenade des Anglais, killing 86 people, allegedly, on Bastille Day. And then it went on tour from France to Germany. 19th of December 2016, another Tunisian, Anis Amri, ploughed a truck into Christmas market, killing 12 people. Then it went on tour again. Off to Sweden, Stockholm this time, 7th of April 2017. Uzbek Ramkhat Akalov killed 4 people when he drove a lorry into a department store, or wagon, for the American listeners. Lorry's more British, isn't it? Oh, I say. And then it went on tour again to London. March 22nd, 4 people died when a car rammed into pedestrians on Westminster Bridge, and a driver then stabbed to death a policeman. And then London again, June the 3rd, 8 people died when 3 jihadists drove a vehicle into pedestrians on the London Bridge again, and then stabbed passers-by. And a man was killed later in June in a van attack on Muslims in Finsbury Park. Back to Paris, full circle. August 9th, a man rammed a BMW into a group of soldiers, injuring 6. And then we come to Virginia. Charlottesville, Virginia, 12th of August. James Field charged with murder after allegedly driving into protesters. You know, how many more of these events, whether real or not, are they going to use vehicles? I'll have more on Charlottesville later on. Now, this has kind of made the news, but it's been going on in private for a number of weeks now. In fact, a number of months, basically since January. And a cabal of leftist, whatever that means, deep state government workers, globalists, bankers, adherents to Islamic fundamentalism, and establishment Republicans are conspiring to remove President Trump and impose cultural Marxism in the United States, according to a former White House aide who darkly worded memo detailing the alleged conspiracy got him removed last month from the National Security Council. The 7-page memo by Rich Higgins, who had been a director for strategic planning at the council, is a manifesto against multiculturalism and political correctness, and a call using apocalyptic language for the president to return to the message that animated his campaign. And it was stated it's not clear the documents ever reached, whether it reached Mr. Trump's desk, but its emergence highlights the deep divide within the White House between Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, Zeke Kyle, the National Security Advisor, and the hardline officials aligned with Stephen K. Bannon, Mr. Trump's chief strategist over the administration's direction. So, with its kind of rather highly charged language and overtly political tone, the memo, which Mr. Higgins drafted on his White House computer and circulated to his colleagues, set off alarm bells inside the West Wing. And most documents emanating from the National Security Council amount to dryly worded policy dissertations and intricate planning documents. Think about that one. So they're trying to bring Trump down, and we'll have further evidence of that in this hour. We're back to Charlottesville, because this plays not only into the news but part of the policy ongoing. And at least one person was killed after alleged white nationalists clashed with alleged counter demonstrators in Charlottesville, Virginia. Hello. That's not a clue. Think about it. Prompting the governor to declare an emergency and halt a rally over removing a Confederate general statue from a public park. The Charlottesville mayor, Mike Singer, said on his Twitter feed he is heartbroken that a life has been lost here and urges all people of goodwill to go home when this was written. But tensions in the city intensified hours after the melee, when at least one vehicle ploughed a crowd of people gathered in a street 2 blocks from the park. So it wasn't even the demonstrators. Multiple people were injured in the incident, and a name was pushed forward again. Remember me doing a piece a couple of months ago where I mentioned the amount of times a triple-barreled name was pushed forward into certain events in American history, be it real or false flags. Well, here's another one. Alex James Field is the alleged driver of the said vehicle, whose number plate was GVF 1111. Of course, we all know how they like that particular number in numerology. Twin towers twice the destruction. And I'd like to point out that there was a lot of KKK. There's been a lot of nonsense written about the KKK, like what it was set up for. And most people are under the illusion it was all against blacks. But the original KKK was against the Jewish people, not blacks. And the first Klan was founded in Pulaski in Tennessee, sometime between December of 1865 and August of 1866, by 6 former officers of the Confederate Army, as a fraternal social club inspired at least in part by the then largely defunct, wait for it, Sons of Malta. Aka Knights of Malta. This is kind of what we're dealing with. It's a succession of underground groups run by a central station, largely from Virginia, who dictate policy under some false agenda banner that the KKK are all about anti-black. They're anti-everything. Now, the Klan borrowed parts of the initiation ceremony from the Sons of Malta. In effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party. Oops. Again, this is not something you are taught at school or anywhere else for that matter. The KKK, of course, we also had we covered in the faction show about Albert Pike, also in the KKK, on his World War three World War prophecies. So do you really think these people are just anti-black? No, they're policy makers. They show you the sleight of hand, which is against all the people, but the face tells you it's anti-black people. No, it's anti-us. And the Ku Klux Klan has nothing to do with anti-black and everything to do with subverting the populace into divide and conquer mode. What I'm asking listeners to this show is, when you see who the puppet is put forward, always look behind it. Whether that's the Klan, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, who's operating behind it? Because what was shown is a complete waste of time and largely a lie. It's the hidden elements that's the problem. People think the Illuminati is X, Y and Z. It's the hidden elements that have always been the problem. Remember, the Illuminati, as it was, it's now the factions, was the fourth layer down in the structure of control. But we thought it was all so important. Not really. So the Klan was a military force for the Democratic Party. It's nice, isn't it? Largely set up by the Sons of Malta, Masonic right groups. So, this is my opinion. The Charlottesville events and press conferences are a Langley-led ploy to remove the president. Period. The gender-driven race riots has been used before, remember. But it's up to the people to see through the illusion of their divide and conquer. It's pure idiocy on our part if we keep falling for the same stunt that they've pulled over and over and over again. Now, Mr. Trump is in a total no-win situation here with this particular event, and that's why it's been set up. Certain things are close to fruition. Certain things are about to end. Certain things are about to be disclosed. So Trump gets sent out in a press conference, and he can't be seen supporting either side. He can't win, and that's exactly what they wanted. If he sides with the KKK, he gets accused of being a racist. If he sides with the black people, he gets accused of selling his people out. You can't win. So he took the middle ground and says, I'm not advocating either side. So what did they do? They used that as a leverage. The president's weak. He won't stand on his convictions. No, you backed him into a corner he couldn't get out of. But we're aware of what you're doing. You're the problem, and we will provide the solution. Mark my words. So it's a classic COINTELPRO out of the agencies, a fishing line technique used to rope people in to, although all those black people, they want to shoot us because we're white. Actually, they shoot more of their own people than they do white people. But that's not what the policymakers want to talk about, is it? All as whites, we're all racist. Well, actually, no, we're not. Do I like elements of what the black people do and the elements of violence that's in their communities? No, I don't. But I guarantee there's thousands of black people who don't like it either. So Trump is now totally backed into a corner, and that's exactly what the policy makers wanted. It's up to us to back him out of it by not falling for the divide and conquer again. Just because somebody's a different colour to you doesn't mean you have to fear them or discount them. Just because somebody is from a different country, the same reason. Gender, sexuality, religion, it's all being used. All of it is divide and conquer. If the gay, lesbian and transsexual community think that all these recent policies are to do with supporting them and how they have a right, you're wrong. You've been played. It's another agenda. It's like a lot in the black community now don't like the Hispanic group for various reasons. And again, it's all been played to divide the people. Look at how many religions there are. Lost count the number of different religions in America alone. All divide and conquer, which we play into. Look for the agenda. That's all I'm asking. Look for the agenda. Because this is the type of lunacy. And one questions who this particular leader is being paid by. The North Carolina KKK leader says that he is glad that anti-white supremacist protester Heather Heyer was run down and killed in Virginia. Really? Neo-Nazi James Field, triple-barreled name again, Alex James Field, faces a murder charge for the death of the 32-year-old who was protesting at an alt-right rally in Charlottesville before she was killed. I'm sort of glad that them people got hit, and I'm glad the girl died. Justin Moore, a grand dragon. Hello. Another group, divide and conquer, all out of the OTO. And a KKK organisation told WBTV, I'm glad people got hit and the girl died. What a nice chap that is. Hope you got paid to say that enough, because one day you won't be able to spend it. His rhetoric went on to say, though they were a bunch of communists, really, out there protesting against somebody's freedom of speech. So it doesn't bother me they got hurt at all. Members of Moore's loyal white knights, another Masonic reference. We're in Charlottesville for the alt-right rally, which was plagued by violence, and also saw a helicopter crash and killed 2 state troopers. I mean, what rational person comes out with stuff like that? I'm glad somebody got run over because they were protesting. Doesn't really make much sense, does it? Unless it's part of an agenda. So there's a lot of fun and games going on in Guam. The island are rather concerned about the rhetoric allegedly coming from North Korea, and apparently they would only have 14 minutes to prepare for an alleged potential catastrophe. That's the estimated time from a launch of a mid-range ballistic missile in North Korea until impact on Guam, where residents seemed resigned to the belief that their fate is out of their control. No, it's not. Go and see the kingdom of Mana people and go and declare your own sovereignty. Guam belongs to the people, not to the American Inc. military. Anyway, the local government of the tiny island issued a preparation guidance to its 163,000 people on Friday on how best to hide and deal with radiation after threats by Pyongyang to strike Guam or test its missiles in the surrounding waters. Islanders, it seems, are not in a hurry to get ready. They probably see through the illusion better than we do. What are we doing for time? A sign of the times. A plethora of European leaders, ministers and dignitaries attended the inauguration of the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani last week in what was seen as a stunning snub to Washington. It was a clear sign the US is losing its control over Europe, and according to the US President Donald Trump and the American Congress, Iran is the world's biggest state sponsor of terrorism. I think that will be retracted one day. And yet here we are, a load of European leaders respectfully attending the swearing in of the country's re-elected president. So this is again part of some of the factions games, where it appears some countries are allies when clearly they're not. The countries don't apply anymore. Never really applied to begin with. Again, that was another divide and conquer strategy. You know, I never understand the idiocy of immigration. Why can't people live wherever they choose to live? You know, you think of the arrogance of the people who made that policy. There's lots of people who want to move to Canada. There's lots of people from Canada who want to move to America, but you have to go through these lengthy processes. And we're supposed to be allies. One of the most strangest things is there is no immigration between Britain and America. None. You can't just emigrate. You have to buy a business in America. That's how I end up coming here. Two of the supposed greatest allies, and there's no immigration. Make much sense, really, does it? Anyway, Also in attendance from France and Germany was dignitaries from Austria, Britain, Denmark, Italy and Holland, as well as many other non-European countries. So all this talk, American talk, about Iran being a rogue state and a scourge of global terrorism, and yet half of Europe turns up to the inauguration of the president. Something's not right, is it? Something's strangely afoot here. We'll see. I don't think we'll have too long to see the hows and whys, put it that way. What are we? A couple of stories on the ill treatment of women and children. And in Lebanon on Wednesday, they joined other Arab nations in abolishing a law that lets rapists escape a punishment if they marry their victims, in a move that's now been applauded by women's rights campaigners. This comes on the heels of Jordan scrapping its law earlier this month and Tunisia last month. The Lebanese lawmakers voted to do away with Article 522 in the Lebanese Penal Code, and you have to say this is definitely a step that needs to be celebrated by all women in Lebanon and the Middle East. It beggars belief it was a law to begin with. And the local rights group Abad, who has campaigned against the country's law for more than a year, said Parliament should immediately pass legislation to end all marital rape and also child marriage, which is still legal in Lebanon. Well, we wish them luck with that. And here's another one that literally defies belief. A 10-year-old, yes, 10, rape victim was denied permission for an abortion by the Indian Supreme Court last month, has now given birth to a baby girl. Again, these laws around the country, around the world, I just find mind-boggling in this day and age. Well, never mind this day and age, in any age. The 10-year-old girl was not aware that, and is still not aware that she has given birth. During her pregnancy, she was told her bulge was because she had a large stone in her stomach. And the baby, weighing 5.5 pounds, was delivered by caesarean section in Chandigarh on 9:22 yesterday. Both the mother and the newborn are doing fine, and the girl, who alleges she was raped several times in the past 7 months by her uncle, who has since been arrested. I mean, what? You know, some things just leave you speechless. Why was that girl denied that permission to have an abortion? It's like the parents last week being denied the right to take their child to America for treatment. This sovereignty thing can't come quick enough, in my opinion. We're going to go into a music break now, I think, and then we're going to go into some of the op-ed pieces and the intel. But first, something to ponder. Some arrests have allegedly been made of some of those who toppled the Confederate statue this week. But the point remains, Can you imagine there being no police presence around if the same protesters started toppling the Georgia Guidestones or the monuments at Arlington? Why did they just stand there and let it happen? Who dictated that policy? And this is where the police are going to have to be warned about it many, many times. Going to have to be very careful which side they choose in the future. Because one day the people will snap. Alright, we're going to go into a music break. This is going out to the cabal. Hi and welcome back to almost the second hour anyway. Those two songs, We Will Live With You or Without You, your choice. Don't take too long now, because we can be bad company just as well. Right. Pin your ear holes back, particularly if you're American, because this is going to be Wells the Fargo moment, as in what the F in amongst this. We've covered some bizarre intel on the strange ways and the more and more desperate ways of the cabal. But this one takes the biscuit. But first, we'll go into some lighter stuff. On Sunday, the cabal tried to leverage the whole of Puerto Rico's in-ground assets to the Shanghai exchange and used the Bank of China's depositors against it. So they tried to leverage the whole of Puerto Rico and the Chinese investors, not investors, sorry, depositors, as leverage against the accounts. It failed. Now, they've also tried that same stunt in Africa. It failed. They tried it in Russia. It failed. So they tried it in the UK. It failed. The Falkland Islands. It failed. Canada. It failed. Middle East. It failed. And America. It failed. One day they'll get the message. Now, this next part is the Wells the Fargo moment, because this rankles with me, and it will rankle with all Americans. But this is the total desperation of the control system in its full glory, and the desperation to leverage anything to keep going in what is a failed exercise. Now, I can now report the American government, the banks, the American pensions, and the military are all bankrupt. All of them. pensions was emptied out in April. So what they're doing now is they're running on credit, on the desperation that some bogus Chinese elders or Rothschilds is going to deliver the regurgitated vomit known as the RV and bail them out. But it's not happening. So 6 weeks ago, and this is your Wells to Fargo moment, 6 weeks ago, the top brass of the American military sold all our military equipment to China. All of it. To stay afloat, and are now leasing it back. I mean, how stupid can we get? Or they get? Both of us, in fact. All to keep an illusion of control. To China? Of course, the puppets on the Clinton or Clonton news network was being telling Americans we are nearly at war with China over what is basically a few sandbanks in the South China Sea, not North American Sea, the South China Sea. It's called that for a reason, because it belongs to the Chinese. And we're putting destroyers over there because we're going to challenge the Chinese. And in the meantime, our top brass sells all our military equipment to China and then leases it back. All for the illusion of keeping we are in control. Either that or to keep the inbred family of the Rothschilds happy. How do you think the American people is going to view this level of stupidity? How many more of the lower ranks in the military and the American people in the agencies are you going to sit back and tolerate this level of insanity? These people have stripped our country bare with the incessant war on terror. It's not terror, it's terror. You know how they like to play on words. It was never war on terror. It was war on terror. So they've bankrupted the government, they've bankrupted the banks to stay afloat. Bear in mind, most of our budget goes on military, and they've emptied the pensions on some illusionary plot that these Chinese elders are going to bail them out with an RV. Or the Rothschilds are finally going to deliver something other than it failed. That's where we're at in this country. We're swimming in a swamp of debt, and idiotic people are making policies that will be far-reaching unless action is taken quickly. These people have got no interest in America or its people. None whatsoever. I don't care how many badges they've got. We have sufficient people in this country to take it back. Preferably not with violence. And where's the good news? The American and Scandinavian based Nazis are on the brink of quitting altogether. This is the very strong rumours I've heard from more than one source this week, as they now realise in full, quite why it's taken them this long is beyond me, that the Chinese elders or the Rothschilds will never ever be able to deliver the said RV, or anything else for that matter, or deliver anything else that benefits the L-ites. Oops. So it's up to those people what they choose to do now. Are you going to run away and hide? Or are you going to hold your hands up and come and help the people? You lost the game. All of you. How many more failed attempts do you need before we find a semblance of a brain cell? And show some human sides of things, like compassion, love, personal responsibility. You all had your fun and games, except that those fun and games were at the expense of the people. But the people fought back, didn't they? The people fought back. We have glitches in the matrix, whether they like it or they don't. I mean, that's plumbed new depths of insanity. Selling all the military equipment to a country you're allegedly spying on and fighting against. Again, it's all the illusion to make you believe, the American public believe, that, you know, we're the all-conquering America and China can't tell us what to do and Putin can't tell us what to do, and the reality is most people tell the Americans what to do. We're not in control of our finances, we're not in control of our military, we're not in control of our government. Not now, we're not. But we will be. Right, we're going to go into some pieces I want to cover before I go into, sadly, because it's reared its ugly head again, and it has to be addressed because there's going to be more diversion and to and fro to do with the Corey David Wilcock nonsense, which now involves an awful lot more people. And so I thought I would do a piece on that, and that's coming up after this piece. But there's a lot in the on the internet over the last number of years to do with the New Age. And thankfully a lot over the recent years it's been exposed as another agency related agenda. So I was reading something this week and I thought I will add some of the points that was written in a book by Alice Bailey, Education in the New Age, and it lists the New Age agenda, which was basically to indoctrinate children. And the list includes the following objectives. Children should be trained to accept a one world global government and culture without question. 2. Full implementation of the anti-Christian educational philosophies of John Dewey, but with a more Eastern metaphysical approach. Oops. Of course, we've been bombarded with how much things are better in the East, with mantras, chants, Kali, Shiva, and all this stuff, the Vedas, except none of it came from them. All the Vedic texts came from Eastern Europe. Shiva, of course, much revered. In fact, so much revered, it is the statue that adorns the front of CERN. Think about that. Point 3, the destruction of ideals of patriotism and national pride, helping kids become world citizens. That could be beneficial in some aspects, but not in their agenda. Hinduism and other pagan religions must be emphasized as attempts are made to blend them into Western civilization. You see the drive of the religious structure and doctrine from the East now. Why did they? Orthodox Christianity must be demeaned and declared obsolete to the children while lifting up the New Age one world religion. Of course, the Pope visited with the Muslim Allah last year, Allah rather, group, all about merging the religion, where the Vatican moves to Jerusalem and rules the one world government and religion from there. Or so they thought anyway. The New Age pluralistic religion, all paths lead to God, all religions are equally valid, will be taught as the only acceptable belief system, excluding Jesus and his claims. Adolescents will be encouraged to force these doctrines on their parents, and we would be asked to rebel if the parents did not cooperate. Divide and conquer, split the family. Essential Christian doctrines like hell, judgment, or even heaven are to be mocked and denied, and rather karma and reincarnation should be taught. Permissive methods of discipline will be fostered, and concepts such as sin and guilt are felt to be unevolved and counterproductive. Really? This is, again, can be used for beneficial, but not part of the plan. Children are to be taught that death is not an enemy to be feared or fought off, but rather to be embraced as part of the plan. But don't tell you what that type of plan is, like harvesting. The children are also to be taught that people who do not accept the New Age teachings are evolutionary drag on humanity and must either capitulate or be killed like a bacterial infection. And people thought the New Age was all about peace and love. Oops. And finally, the model of the traditional family and its sexual mores must be discarded, and loyalty to one's family must be replaced by loyalty to the world. One world, government and religion. There's your doctrine of the New Age. Like I say, always look for the sleight of hand. Any plan that comes out always has an agenda. So like the big, like I said earlier, like the push for, even with the blacks, going back to the civil rights. If anyone thinks that was to benefit black people, you've fallen for the sleight of hand. You focus on that. We're giving black people rights. No, actually, we're giving no people no rights. We're ending slavery. Now we're just going to enslave everyone. The oldest trick in the book. Right. I'm hoping that this is the last ever piece I do on these pair of clowns. Perhaps we'll have a, before I go into it, perhaps we'll have a song for Mr. Wilcock. Hi all and welcome back. That was to David Wilcock. Missing is my favourite place to be, particularly after there's been a furore on the internet, which he is always appears to be involved in. Like I said, I hope this is the last, because I'm kind of sick of it. But there is a bigger agenda here that has to be pointed out. And Kerry Cassidy did a small piece on it, and I'm going to pull a small portion out of her blog that will start it off. But basically what's happening now is the alternative media battle lines are being drawn, and the defining groups that's going to start playing head games, of which they already have, will become more and more prominent as things go forward. So I want our members and listeners to understand who's who, what's what, and what they're up to. So this is a small part that Kerry Cassidy put out. Good, Wilcock, Tompkins and the Gaia TV faction, backed in part by money from Gaia TV and a portion of the SSP under Admiral Bobby Ray Inman. This faction was only recently joined by Tompkins shortly after my interview, that's Kerry Cassidy, with him back in December of 2016. She goes on to say, from my prior dealings with Tompkins, is he does not support Wilcock or Corey Good information. However, it seems he was persuaded to go along with the agenda because it contains enough disinfo to muddy the waters. This, in their view, is necessary as part of the overall drive to disclose but keep the public in a confused state of mind. And I endorse all of that, because that is exactly what's going on. Then we got the Tom DeLonge faction. Various top military brass are behind this faction, including a division of the CIA and Open Minds TV. The next faction, Stephen Greer. associated with a portion of the CIA. Sound familiar? And the other faction, according to Kerry, is the Kerry Cassidy faction, stroke Project Camelot, which is, in her words, a grassroots organisation with a huge YouTube following, 152 million unique visitors with 165,000 subscribers at the time of this writing, with an emphasis on a high-level whistleblowers with above top-secret clearances. It was. And she proudly announces that she's been recently backed by grassroots effort by right-wing pundit Robert David Steele, who teamed up with left-wing Cynthia McKinney to reform the government. She thinks Mr. Steele is not part of the problem, then maybe Kerry's part of the problem also. So that was a good list, and I'm going to give credit to Kerry Cassidy. What she missed in that is the role of the Coven people in it. This is the hidden element of the Covens. Their numbers are drastically reduced to what it was, but they still have players playing games. So what we've got now is Corey and David have script writers working overtime, basically. Right, okay. Their script writers are working overtime, writing fake threats to himself and Jordan Sather, one of Corey's kids, and presenting it to the public via one of their sock puppets, Justin Deschamps. Again, classic reverse psychology is used, you know where that comes from, to deflect the narrative and play on the "we must be valid as we are being attacked" routine. Actually, it's more narrative-driven bullshittery again, all designed to confuse the public. Now, Justin Deschamps goes on to say that these fake people making threats are trying to split the community, in his words. Really, Justin, because this Corey and Wilcock bandwagon that you are part of is exactly doing what they were paid to do by the Coven members at Gaiam TV. Split the community. Period. A couple of years ago, by another one of Corey's sock puppets, I was accused of supporting partial disclosure. Again, another divide and conquer attempt. But this show has done real disclosure. I don't have to tell you that. You've all listened to the shows. In a way that all can get a grasp of what is being delivered. Their type of disclosure is total distraction from the real narrative, which coincidentally falls right in line with the cabal plans of 50 years before disclosure. That's what they wanted. They're not going to get it. But these are pushing it in wrong directions. So it's a case of let's make the public think they are getting disclosure in a couple of years' time, while the real narrative is it's pushing it further and further back. So the Coven members who are driving the narrative have promoted a pair of egotistical clowns, and they are being promoted to hiding the real narrative. So the question remains, Justin, is how many pieces of silver are you getting for it? Because currently you may think it's rather cool being in the in crowd of Corey and David, startled by their perceived fame. Startled so much, in fact, that you overlook the basic facts. There's no corroborating evidence supporting any of the material. None. Wilcock can say he has all he likes of his secret insiders. There is none. The SS small p are a rogue organisation. Corey works for the FBI and also admitted being a trainer for agencies to troll the alternative media. All of these have been admitted by Corey himself in his sideshow with David Wilcock. So you want the evidence, it's all there. He's already told you. But you're overlooking all that. Corey was working as an IT to train for the agencies, trolls and shills. He set up the program for the alternative media. And we're expected to believe his blue chickens. If you don't believe me, go and listen to Wilcock and Corey's shows, because the fact that he outs himself as an FBI infraguard agent, which started at the same time as he came out, the fact that he outs that he also worked for the agencies, training trolls and shills, he also admitted that the SS small p are rogue. But let's overlook those facts. What you also may not be aware of, Mr. Deschamps, is the collusion between Corey Goode and his wife to create a story that fell in line with the law of one bullshittery to get the attention of David Wilcock. Oops. This was known in the Avalon circles 2 to 3 years ago. A deliberately concocted story to pull in David Wilcock. But you carry on, Justin, playing their sock puppet, because when they have finished with you, they will drop you like a stone. And where does that leave you then, Justin? Wilcock's dropped numerous people along the way, as you'll find out. Corey and David are not supporting disclosure. They are supporting mass disharmony based on a bullshit narrative and marketing, or let's put it in its real terms, racketeering on a massive scale. So, Mr. Wilcock went missing, didn't he? Which is why I played the song. It's not the first time he's gone missing, as you will find out. But Mr. Wilcock's famous for his use of synchronicities, except he fails to notice his own. Out he comes this week with the pity party, and yet again, after the furore has all died down, in which he goes missing, he then reappears 1 to 3 months later. Again, synchronicity, David. Warns of a fake attack on him via his car brakes, which is exactly what happened to him and a repeat of a same incident that happened allegedly back in 2001. Yes, some of us do real research, David. Why didn't you notice the synchronicity of that, David? And yet again, he comes out, writes an article this week that was straight out of the 2013 narrative, like the last 4 years didn't exist. You in the 4-year loop, David? Now, a few things that cropped up in his article. Right at the front, with no apparent reference, was a picture of the Washington Monument. That opened the article. A very Illuminati phallic-shaped symbol to start off with, Mr. Wilcock, is it not? Bearing in mind, in his previous post, he outed his past life as the scriptwriter that founded the Illuminati. Yes, we knew. Yes, indeed, Mr. Wilcock. He stated, and I quote, he set up the esoteric material that would later be used as the foundation for the Illuminati. I did tell you people will start outing themselves if you looked close enough. His words, not mine. He also went on to say the Dark Alliance are attacking him. Really, David? The Dark Alliance? You mean the SS small p are attacking you? Because they're the Dark Alliance. The real Dark Alliance. SS small p. Corey admitted it in your own show, did he not? He also comes out in support of another distraction called Alex Jones. Poor Alex, he's getting his site attacked. But what was significant was there was no mention of defending Corey Good. None whatsoever. None in his posts or in the last 2 or 3 months when the whole UFO community converged on Corey, and to a lesser extent you were yet again overlooked of your role in it. David then goes on in his post, mentions many times, again missing the synchronicity of it all, a CIA operation called Mockingbird. It had no relevance to the post, but it's David outing again. And he went into great lengths explaining that Mockingbird was a mock on the American Eagle. No, David, it wasn't. It was the Birdie program with the blue masks. You know it, and we know it. The CIA may have started and ended Project Mockingbird, but you and Corey reopened it, and Mockingbird became the Blue Avian, or the Blue Chickens, didn't it? But you carry on with your marketing plans to create, here's an idea for you, create a new episode of Sesame Street with you, Corey, and Big Bird Blue Avian, so we can all have a proper laugh. Except it's not funny. Further on down his post, It appears now David has his doubts about Corey, as he has pulled out of the Eclipse conference taking place this weekend. And he also states in his latest article a few times the word if Corey is correct. If indeed, David. But you knew it was bullshit straight from the off. But you, along with the Project Avalon crew who promoted him, and yourself into this desperate charade that it is now, you, David, and your fellow blue brethren. For those who are not aware of what that is, it's not a reference to the blue chickens. Blue brethren is a large group of people, many of which are famous in the alternative media circuit, particularly in ufology, for pulling a stunt on the unaware public with deliberate COINTELPRO bullshittery. Go and check the list. Hoagland. Who's the first person David Wilcock promoted? Hoagland. Hoagland's one of the Blue Brethren. COINTELPRO, what does that really mean? Well, it's an acronym for Counter-Intelligence Program, and was a series of covert and often illegal projects conducted by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation aimed at spying on, infiltrating, discrediting, disrupting and destroying domestic organisations considered subversive. It's not just the FBI who uses it, it's Langley. So it was created by the FBI to disrupt things. And guess who admitted working for the FBI as an infraguard agent? Corey Good. Guess who admitted setting up IT programs and training people to be shills and trolls for the purpose of disrupting the alternative media? Corey Good again. David Wilcock is the master of reinventing the narrative when it suits his purpose. Those who have forgotten, here is a reminder. Now, I want to say, one of the best pieces of writing that was ever delivered in the alternative media was, I will give credit where credit is due, whoever wrote it. But it was attributed to David Wilcock and Benjamin Fulford, called Financial Tyranny. And most of that, if not all of it, is actually correct. A fantastic piece. Now that came out in January of 2012. Yet when I spoke to David Wilcock personally at Awake and Aware on September the 25th, 2011, David Wilcock was completely unaware of who Benjamin Fulford was. He asked me who was Ben. And yet suddenly within 12 weeks they're both writing a novel-sized book on financial tyranny. Then suddenly David continued with Ben for a while. Then when Ben went missing, another one went missing, came back different, David stepped away from him again, only to reappear later as a critique on Ben's supposed blog. Let's not forget what else David promoted throughout the whole of 2012. he told everyone he would be personally ascending on December the 21st, 2012, as basically he was more special than the rest. Wrote books on it, and then went missing again after that event, after another failed promise, only to return again with the "I'm Edgar Casey" script. Then the family of Edgar Casey threatened to expose him, and so all that died down. He made the excuse on one of his shows or blog, saying he was losing members over the Casey material and was going back to Ascension and E.T.'s et al. In the meantime, up pops another one. He introduces Drake into the equation, who David said he had personally vetted. Except what David kept quiet is he was hiding under a pseudonym back in 2002, ghostwriting articles for the Skolnick Report under the guise of Art Aqua. Back in September of 2002, David wrote a series of articles about military overthrowing the government, prosperity packages, militias being involved, ETs being involved, and mass arrests were going to take place. Sound familiar? It should do, as that was the focal point of a show he did in March 2012. But Drake, and I do like the man. I could have said a lot more harsher words after what happened last year. I chose not to. But when Drake became almost like a Trump-like figure on the internet, where many people liked him and many people hated him, it's kind of, there's no in between with Drake. People either love him or they hate him. So as Drake started getting some flack on the internet, David played the distance game again. There's another synchronicity, David. I wrote to Wilcock numerous times via email, Facebook messages, private messages, and also on his blog, asking for David to come on our show in general, and also on the anniversary of his interview with Drake, 3 years running. David never answered one of those requests, not one. So Drake, like Fulford, was dropped like a stone, only for Wilcock to return and interfere with Drake at a later date again, just like he did with Fulford. For those of you who may not be aware, David Wilcock was getting his ET intel from our group, the Cosmic Voice, and his political intel from Neil Keenan. That was until Harry and Corey came along. Harry being Shane the Ruiner. Now, Shane warned David Wilcock that Corey's story was all bullshit many, many times. He ignored it, as David thought he could use that material to elevate himself into the all-knowing, I'm the only one with the intel narrative that he's rammed down our throats for the last 3 or 4 years. David was aware. But the heat has been turned on Corey, and David went more and more missing. People will remember me out in Corey Good back in June of 2015, and so the bandwagon began, ending with Wilcock, Neil Keenan, who was also exposed at the time, and Drake arranging a meeting that went on until 5 a.m. Friday morning, 2 days before I and all the admins were booted out of Cosmic Voice. They had a meeting that went on till 5 o'clock in the morning of how to get rid of me as the show host, which duly followed. Yet again, another furore, and yet again the invisible man, David Wilcock, did his disappearing act again, leaving Drake to face all the flack. You getting the picture now? So we come up to now where half of the alternative media, to do the full circle, as Kerry mentioned in her blog, has now 2 years later, after we outed Corey, has decided that Corey Good is bullshit. Quite why it's taken 2 years is beyond me, but it did. And then Randy Morgans does a post on it. Bill Ryan, yet another 4-year loop man, returns and runs with Randy's story. And here we are again. But yet again, in the initial outset of all that furore, David Wilcock disappears like nothing's going on. And left Corey to defend himself, like he did with Drake, like he did with Shane, like he did with Ben Fulford, like he did with Kerry Cassidy, and like he did with Neil Keenan. So now he's pulled out of Corey's Mount Shyster conference, citing that he's too busy, according to him. Doing what? Counting all his money he's duped out of the public from his data mined books and material and bullshit stories, to write more blogs that could have been all lifted and copied and pasted from 2013. And now he's saying on his blog, if Corey is correct. Like a politician who slithers away like a snake from obeying public who are demanding accountability, David runs off and hides yet again. And that to me is despicable behaviour. And if Justin, Corey and all the others think he's going to support them, think again, because this snake runs and hides and leaves you in the lurch. He'll protect his ego and his image while you sink like a stone, and you will, because you're going to get exposed, and you already are being exposed. Once assets are exposed, they become expendable. You know that, Corey. That's why Invisible Man runs off. So I will extend the same offer to Mr. Wilcock as afforded to Corey Good. Come forward and tell the people you are part of a long-running script with the Blue Brethren Group and Stephen Greer to dupe the public and sidetrack real disclosure. That's what you've been doing. We're onto it, and more people will start seeing through the illusion and the racketeering before it takes place. So there'll be no 3 years planting seeds, Mr. Wilcock, and your harvesting and raw and the law of oneself. That's New Age. That's why I read the first part out. It's indoctrination of children is what Wilcock, Corey Good, Justin Deschamps, Jordan and Teresa, Jay Widener and all the others that have now attached themselves, Cobra. You're not indoctrinating the next batch of children. You're just not. Enough's enough. I think we've all had enough of this. Next song. Head games and dignity. Far too much head games. While head games go on, people lose their way. And that's what really angers me more than anything. We set up this show and called it The Truth, Honour and Integrity for a reason. You can have dignity in that as well. To me, and what I stand for, truth, honour and integrity cannot be bought. It seems this society is awash with contradictory people who seem to think they can sponge money out of the public for their opinion that's largely been data mined. There's a whole raft of them across the internet, some of them more famous than others, that somehow they can write a book based on somebody else's material and sell it and become a household name. But that's the definition of selling out. This is not what we're about, or what we shouldn't be about. If you're in the alternative media to make money, please piss off. The same thing that your greedy eyeballs are seeking is the same thing that controls us. People charging $400 to come to my site of angel power and all kinds of other bullshittery. $150 for this healing, $150 for that healing, $300 for an Akashic reading. Really? One-on-one sessions with people who infiltrate your mind and play mind games as well as head games. They're all there in the alternative media. They've all been exposed. David Wilcock himself, $150 for his one-on-one sessions going back 10 years ago. He's already admitted he's not an experiencer. So why would people pay $150 to listen to David Wilcock babble on? We have to get sensible with this. The whole community has been trashed by agencies, covens, disinfo agents, egotistical prats, and people with the allure of alleged fame. This is not about fame. It's not about how much money you make. This is about our freedom for the planet. And whether the Earth's flat, round, square, oblong, or whatever, it's not going to save the children in Africa, is it? It's not going to save the children, the 500,000 children going missing in America each year for sex and ritual abuse. It's not saving the homeless on the street, is it? It's not saving the people who are having their houses illegally stolen by rogue banks. In reality, does it really matter whether the blue chickens are real or not? Again, it's not going to lead to our freedom, is it? This is what we have to focus on. And David Wilcock and his crew needs to shut up. You've been exposed. Step down. Truth, honour and integrity. That's what you need. It doesn't have a price, not for this person anyway. Now, one last thing I'm going to cover before we go into some questions is we had one of the members here. I'm not going to mention who it was, but that person mentioned something similar that a few others I am seeing have the same concerns. And it goes back to the term I came up with, the sin eaters. And something I said last November when I said we can't really help those who are not awake anymore. Now, because they won't accept the truth, which comes with a plethora of trauma, horror, despair. All of us have absorbed all of that truth, and that's why I called us the sin eaters. But they never. They ignored it. They lived in their own little bubble, their own little world. Now, as time's gone on, more and more people are seeing what I mentioned also last year, is the two worlds. It's becoming more and more obvious. I feel like when I drive probably 70 to 90 miles a day in my job. I'm beginning to think that people don't see me on the road. Because the way people are driving, you would think it was a computer game like Grand Theft Auto. I drive a big van. They don't see it. Maybe others are seeing the same thing. Everyone's driving around like it's the computer game. Going from lane 1 to lane 3, back to 1 again, in, out, zagging. Indicators don't appear to exist. And then you get these clowns who decide to cut in front of you, not by indicating and going at 10 to 15 degrees on an angle from one lane to the next. No, they do 45 to 60 degrees. Again, you think it was Grand Theft Auto. It's as though nobody else is on the road. Anyway, I've kind of gone off track there, but going back to the sin eaters, what I'm seeing now is some of the members and some of the listeners is guilt. That other people haven't woken up, be it their partners, loved ones, the children, or the parents, or their friends. And I feel I have to address it. You have no reason whatsoever to feel guilty for anybody. We have absorbed enough being the sin eaters. We have absorbed enough being shunted out of society where you can't have a conversation with anybody because of the rolled eyes or the hilarity the minute you mention any sort of truth. Because the reality is we're not talking conspiracy anymore. Conspiracy's gone. Because all the alleged conspiracies are all now public knowledge. Remember when they all thought we were nuts, talking about 9/11 inside the job? Now 60% of Americans believe that to be the case. They all thought we were nuts, talking about politicians interfering with kids, or the Vatican, or the churches. Now it's common knowledge. You could go on and on with what was conspiracy is now common knowledge, so it's not conspiracy anymore. So why are they still rolling their eyes? Because they can't face the truth. And I'm asking members and listeners to let go of your guilt. You do not have to feel guilty for those who can't face the truth, no matter who that is. We've had it harsh enough. We've took the difficult path. We've absorbed all the horrible truth of the interfering with kids, the ritual stuff, the mind control stuff, the chemtrails, the GMOs, the water poisoning. There's 3 more alleged conspiracies that are now out in the public. If people haven't woken up and accepted the truth, then will you please stop feeling guilty? It's not your responsibility. It's time they learned personal responsibility, and this is the problem with humanity, a lack of personal responsibility. This is why the cabal feel that they have to control us, because we're incapable as a collective of controlling ourselves. Yes, it's harsh when your partner is not awake, but that partner has had as much opportunity as you to see the truth over the last 4 years. We've had a plethora of disclosure, both small d and capital D. It's all there. Look at all the movies. You could spend 2 shows talking about movies that's related to disclosure. This show's picked out 3. The Blacklist. Basically, it's telling you what's going on now. The 100 series tells you all you need to know of the past and the now. The City of Light people, the ones who took the pill and won't accept the pain and trauma. In essence, that world is the City of Light. And it doesn't matter who's in it. They're not your responsibility. They're just not. We've suffered enough in our lives of waking up without carrying their guilt, because it is their guilt, not ours. So I'm asking all the members who listen to this is meditate on it and please let it go. We've suffered enough for the stupidity, and it is stupidity, of those who won't face the truth. I said for a reason, we can't help them anymore. Which is contradictory. It's about the only thing that's been contradictory ever in this show to what's gone previous. But times have changed. They're not going to wake up in time. How it plays out going forward is up for debate. I have one theory, other people have other theories, and we'll see how it goes. But rest assured, those people are not going to have it easy going forward. Far from it. And what I don't want is us in the community feeling guilty. That's just not fair. You did your best, you tried everything to wake them up, and they refused. Their choice. Free will. But that doesn't mean to say that we have to suffer for it. And yes, it's more difficult for the empaths in the group, of which there's many. We did our part. Right, let's go into some questions. Are you personally involved in the high-level meetings with the military? No. Would I like to? Yes. Would I tolerate it? Debatable. I have much gratitude for the people that I am familiar with who are holding several meetings a day, some of them with the top brass, various agencies, various heads of state. I don't know how they go through that level of stupidity on a day-to-day basis. It's I'm kind of privy to small amounts of what gets said, but names don't get revealed, which is fair enough. I mean, it's beyond all reasoning. Of course, the intel showed you what the top brass had done. Sold all our military equipment to China. I'm sure our friend over at Cosmic Voice won't be too pleased when he hears that. So the answer is no. Not just, they do listen, whether I'm at the meetings or not personally. Rest assured they are listening. I imagine them, some of them squirm in the chair, and they should do. You've sold this country out and its people for far too long. What's your position on Kesh's plasma work and his plans in Ghana? Well, I don't know what he's doing in Ghana, but all I do know is Mr. Kesh did a massive fanfare, was it 2015-ish? Conferences in Italy. Promised the Italians 1 million of those devices by Christmas. Then it didn't get delivered, and to my knowledge still hasn't been delivered. Promised a load of things in Africa in a conference there, and I think the other one was in Asia. and unless I'm wrong, I don't follow his work because I think he's part of the problem. He may have a lot of knowledge. Whether he's co-opted remains to be seen, but either way, he spent, or his people and the ones who donated spent an awful lot of money on 3 high-level, very pricey, very costly conferences in 3 different countries, and we're yet to see a working, delivered unit. In fact, during the multiple hour conference, he didn't show a working unit. So I hope he proves me wrong. Said the same about Corey Good. I would have loved Corey's story to be 100% correct, because it's absolutely fantastic, but it's all bullshit. All of it. How much more hopium are we going to get before we go, it's crap? Like the RV and the Sara. It's coming, it's coming. And Mr. Kesh goes on, quote, "We accept peace, and as leaders they are obliged to accept peace of the people. The Earth Council, the Universal Council and the core team have prepared a letter to the world leaders that we need peace." That part is correct. That part is correct. It's part of obtaining sovereignty. As a sovereign nation, you are not allowed to attack another country. Cosmic law. Next question. It was recently stated that the event has been scheduled. No date was given. Your comments, please. This gets asked every couple of months or so. My answer is a question: which event? Because there's multiple of them. I don't believe at this point there'll be a light switch moment where it just goes click and we all jump to 5D. We all end up with $5 billion of gold and all kinds of other nonsense. Again, it's all a distraction, taken away from who you really are. Doing your inner work, preparation for a series of events, not one. So, I'm not being unkind to the questioner. It was a valid question, but there is a number of events, not just one. I want to learn more about there's been 2 questions on this, the 5 original tribes, Master Trust, all of it. Can you please direct me to where I can find some answers? Yes, this show. Most of the material that surrounding that is only available on this show or on the Kingdom of Mana website, which will be expanded, as I understand, when time allows, but they're very, very busy people. As mentioned in the show, we're dealing with 144 nations who are initiating or showing an interest in obtaining their sovereignty. So we're training those people how to do it, what it entails, and all the logistics and what is behind it all. So that's more important than the details of the names of this and the names of that. Or the next question was also the woman you interviewed from the Kingdom of Mana, you did not give her name and you did not introduce her. Who is she? Miss Mana. And no, I did not give her name. and I didn't introduce her, and she didn't give a name because, for safety purposes, because that individual has been shot at more than once. They don't like what we're doing. And so, to protect that person's name, we chose not to give it out. Eventually, when certain things are completed, that lady and the other people involved in it will all come forward, and a more detailed show will be delivered, but it will only be heard on this particular show. So bear with us, but we have more important things to do than keep the members informed. I kind of keep you informed in a way, but there's that much going on at the moment now that it's difficult to keep up with all aspects of everything. So Thomas, there's a lot of controversy in Australia at present. Many members of Parliament are being exposed as dual citizens. Go figure. It's a bit like here. Which, according to the Constitution, makes them ineligible. But the problem is, which Constitution? See, this is the problem of where we don't understand things. We, like Australia, believe we have one Constitution, except we don't. America's got 4, not 1. So everyone keeps spouting that we have to abide by the Constitution, and the answer is, which one? And so they've changed the Constitution of the Constitution for the Constitution. Go and check it. That's how they do it. They change one word, and then suddenly it's a whole different ball game. That's what they've been doing, and for the large part, people have missed it, thinking, oh, it doesn't really make much difference whether it's for or of. It's still the Constitution, but it's not. So some have been members, even cabinet ministers, for some time. Yeah, they will be. The latest and largest controversy is over the Deputy Prime Minister, who is now being revealed to be a New Zealand citizen due to his father being a Kiwi. I'm wondering if this is draining the swamp beginning to happen in Australia. I know Australia and many other countries have been slated for swamp cleaning in the near future. I hope so. I don't personally think the issue with dual citizens is nothing to do with countries. That's part of the problem. I'm living in America, but I've still got a British passport because I'm not an American, in inverted commas, citizen. So technically, I'm of both. I'm legally here due to the business and my green card status. It's not really the issue whether the person's New Zealand or the person's German or Austrian or whatever country. The issue is which faction are they working for. Of course, the problem here is the Israeli dual citizen, because those people have no interest in America whatsoever. None of them. Their allegiance is to the Zionists. Not Israel the country, forget that. The Zionists. And that's where the issue should be, the focus of attention should be on, not whether they're working in Australia as a New Zealand citizen. But which faction are they working for? I think a lot of the members would agree. I've done more to highlight improving things in America than a lot of Americans have. But technically I'm a Brit, which is a bit ironic in a way, given the control Britain's had over this country, and still does. Focus more on, I know there's a lot of, it's a bit like Britain and Ireland, and America and Canada, Australia and New Zealand are kind of rivals in many aspects, and again, that's part of the divide and conquer. But I do understand where the person who asked the question is coming from. Is that person making decisions based what's best for Australia and its people, or for another agenda? So in essence, where that person comes from is completely irrelevant. It's the agenda behind it. That's the problem. I finally have a question, says this person. Why is it said that white magic does not have the same power and potency as the black magic does? The equation is unbalanced. Ooh, good question. I kind of touched on this recently, and the black magic is related to the black people, and that's not to be taken in any way to be racist or not. It's stating a fact. The black people were being used because of where they originated from as the voodoo, and that particular magic, in inverted commas, is the most potent on the planet. Black magic, dark magic, same thing. So that's the aspect of that. When the black race mix with the white race, the voodoo dark magic powers are enhanced. This is why they in the past moved people around, so they would genetically mix, so then the entities attached to that magic could wield higher powers. Again, I must stress, this is not racism, it's just stating facts. Take the colour out. It's dark and it's light. So you have the dark magic operated by the dark entities, who we covered in the Levershoff show, I think it was the first one, how they don't observe the rules. They think they're above cosmic and universal law, whereas the white magic applies cosmic and natural law, or the light. We have to abide by a set of rules, and yes, it's unbalanced. This is why this whole universe is being fixed, because it was unbalanced. And it's not about the whole universe being 100% light. That doesn't work either. It's about 50-50 or 45-55. There's that centre metronome spread again. It's the same thing. It's played out on all the levels. But this universe was 87% dark. And certain higher beings were going to pull the whole universe, never mind just this planet, because it was so unbalanced and they didn't think it could be corrected. Some thought different, and I spent many thousands of years trying to correct it, and we're rather close. It's like the song I played earlier, With or Without You. We will make the changes on this planet, with or without the cabal, with or without the dark. Because once people get behind something that's actually physically concrete in their face of a real change, it will go viral, and there's nothing they can do about it. Nothing whatsoever. They know that. So there is an imbalance. White magic, light magic applies by cosmic natural law. The dark, black magic doesn't. Is it fair? No. And most beings, not just humans, have decided to fight it with violence. But you don't always need violence. The kingdom and manner have proven that. No bloodshed. No killing people. Just applied natural law. Just applied proper law, I might add. Not the legalese, babble and dog Latin that they've rammed down our throats. Just all reversed by people being clever rather than resorting to the animalistic. Let's shoot them or stab them or blow them to smithereens. That never worked in the Great Orion Wars. It didn't work when this wars came to this planet either. It just created more and more anger. It's like the America bombing the Middle East, and people not thinking that it's not turning the people who survived with all their loved ones gone are not going to turn into terrorists as they're known. No, they want retribution. But the best way is Sun Tzu. The art of war without firing weapons. Weapons can come in the form of a pen. And also come in the form which is kind of rare, even though it's the term's common, by using common sense, funny enough. So I hope that answered your question. Please discuss the ramifications of September the 30th so that my new people can get up to speed. Well, September the 30th is the end of the financial year. There's two of them each year, March the 31st and September the 30th, where countries are supposed to settle up debts. Now, we've been waiting for March the 31st and September the 30th for the last 5 years for someone to go, we're calling in all your debt and you'll have to step down. Maybe this time it will happen. We'll see. So that's basically it. It's a calling in of all the debts. If that is called in and really enforced, which appears to be taking place in some circles at the moment, then they will not be able to pay their debts. And then they're doomed. Has the 1954 Grenada Treaty, Eisenhower ET, been dissolved, or are we going to have to renegotiate in the future? I'm not too sure whether that has. A lot of the treaties are being negated, like the Paris Treaty, like the Trans-Pacific, like the Transatlantic. They're being negated because they were not valid. They didn't have the charter or the sovereignty to sign off on them. Eisenhower sold the people out, and yet in some circles he's revered, including his granddaughter, who's spouting her special kind of bullshittery, and she should be apologising for the damage her family have done to the American people. We'll have some tech and you can torture and abuse and abduct and put people in fear for the rest of their lives, and that's okay. No. Who made Eisenhower God? That you can just dismiss 2%, he agreed, of the American population could be abducted and medically experimented on and mind wiped. And his granddaughter's running around conferences charging all kinds to spout crap. She should be run out of the community, in my opinion. What was the American population around about then? Let's say 200 million. And he offered 2% of that. Yeah, go ahead. Go and abduct our people. Drill through their eyes. Artificially inseminate them with hybrids. And then pull the baby out. Traumatising the mum for the rest of her life when she's frightened to sleep. Beggars belief. What do you think will happen on Monday during the eclipse? We'll see. We'll see. Will the mass meditation help, or is this a waste of time? If it's to do with the Cobra meditation, skip it. Again, we're getting into what was mentioned before in the New Age stuff. Meditating to mantras we don't understand. Meditating to sigils, again, we don't understand. Meditating to Eastern ways, again, we don't understand. Meditate within. All you can do at this time is help yourself and those who have chosen to awaken. That's all. And please don't feel guilty for it. So, supposedly today the Nazis, Bush has denounced the Nazis. Do you have any intel on them? Are they even alive? Some of them are. Some of them have the Kool-Aid tech and drink. Except the Nazis are on the brink of collapse. Hope they help those that broke them down. Take them down as well. Did you listen to Drake's show last Saturday or Sunday? If so, what do you think about his comment that the event is going to be staged now by ETs from inner Earth, and he knows the date? Is there any chance of this happening? No, that's not happening. A lot of those, I've mentioned this before, there are races beneath our feet. To date, I've not seen any concrete evidence to suggest any of them want anything pleasant or benevolent to do with humanity. One group threatened to help us after the cabal started drilling into their homes. So, the enemy of my enemy is my friend and all that stuff. They're not doing it for the benefit of humanity. These are the same people, beings, that have come to the surface and played God in the past, some of them. And yet, now that suddenly, because Corey Good starts talking about Anshar and all kinds of other bullshittery, they're suddenly light beings. But no. These are the ones that have been abducting people all over the world, experimenting on them, along with the military. I listened to Drake for the first, I was asked would I listen to the first 15 minutes of Drake's last show. I lasted 9. Because I thought it was very, very sad. He's lost his way. What do you think caused the ocean to recede off the coast of South America and cause huge waves to appear off the west coast of Africa? I've not seen this story. I would suggest some sort of a blast. Because when you get a tsunami, the waters recede quite away from the coast, and then it comes rolling in. So either an earthquake has gone off, or there's some fun and games going on in that region. Was David Wilcock, did he get kicked off the Andromeda Council ambassador last year while he was working for the government as a double agent? Question doesn't make sense. I'm presuming he means, did David get kicked off the Andromeda Council after he was exposed working for the government as a double agent? I have no idea. I wasn't aware that Wilcox had anything to do with Andromeda or its council. In fact, they were bogus as well. Andromeda Council had harvesting biospheres in our vicinity. They were the ones that were going to lift us to the 5D planet. Yeah, right. That failed as well. apologies for gulping for those who don't like it. Where are we next? I think that's about it. Unless there's any questions on me. Wait, quick check. Nope. Well, it's 3 hours anyway. Right. There's a fair bit covered tonight. The main thing is people need to stand their ground, realise what you've learnt, how you've arrived here today, how difficult that personal journey's been. And don't feel guilty for the ones that failed their own responsibility. We've carried enough. Don't get caught up in the drama. I did that piece tonight so people have an understanding. If people choose to not believe it, that's fine by me. Just don't be nasty. But all the evidence has been supplied. All the synchronicities that David Wilcock failed to mention, how he goes missing every single time, how he has an input in certain known names in the community until they get attacked and David does the runner. The Nazis are on the brink of stepping down. 1 down, 4 to go. In essence, that will collapse the Asian faction also. The stupidity of the so-called American generals giving all our military equipment to China and leasing it back, all because of a failed promise from the bogus Chinese elders and the Rothschilds group. You know where we are. We have the plan, we have the mode, we have the funds to move forward, all of us. Or you continue making complete idiots of yourself and getting embarrassed on this show. It's your choice. Honour or dishonour, truth or lies. You all have a choice. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. There will be no show this Sunday. An evening with Thomas will be back a week on Sunday with Randy Dupre, a name some of you may not be familiar with, but I assure you he's got some rather interesting stories to share. It will be highly interesting. So he was never going to come on a show. He has so much to say, so it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting show. Failing that, we'll be back next Thursday. I hope you all enjoyed the show, and I hope you all get to see, or as many of you get to see, the eclipse on Monday. Chloe and I will be going to see it, and maybe we'll have some more pictures. Let's see who turns up this time. So